show you guys when you guys in a budget. There's you have no
engine hoist.
No engine hoist, no engine stand, no.
Jack stands?
Jack stands.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking apart this Integra b18b1 motor because we're going to rebuild it for a customer. Right now we're taking it apart so we could send it over to the machine shop and have them fully rebuild the head and polish the crank, clean the block, hone, deck. So yeah, let's get to it. Off to the machine shop she goes. Right here we have it all taken apart, and I'm going to go ahead and take it to the machine shop, have them get everything ready for us, so we can start assembling soon. So we have the engine right here on the engine stand. I'm going to clean the cylinders, flip it around, clean the crank journals, and then I'm going to start installing the new bearings with the plastic gauge, torque them down to spec, and then take it apart again to check the clearances. I'm going to do the same thing with the rods. I'm going to clean them, install the new bearings, put them in, torque them down to spec with plastic gauge, take them apart again, and basically check how we are doing on the clearance. Basically, when they polish the crank, they check the measurements and make sure it's still good, like standard size. So it should be good, but I just want to double check so I can make sure I assemble the motor correctly and make sure that it's going to last the customer a long time. Have the head right there. So yeah, let's get to it. I'm going to start cleaning it, and then I'll start doing the oil clearances. So we have our brand new set of main bearings, King engine bearing specialists, and we're gonna go ahead and put them on so we can check the oil clearance. Okay, I got the bottom bearings on and a little piece of plastic gauge. So now we're gonna go ahead and put the bearing on the main caps. And then cap number 1 has a bearing. Cap number 1 goes closest to the oil pump. And then you just put all 5 of them, torque them down, disassemble again, and check the clearance. So main bearing cap bolts, b18b1, step 1, 22, and b18b1 step 2, 56. So we're gonna go ahead and torque it down to 22 first and then 56. And number 1, same thing. So the main bearings are good. Now we're gonna go ahead and check the rod bearings. We also got brand new King Racing rod bearings. And then we also got new pistons, and new piston rings. We'll check the gap on the piston rings too. Right now we're going to check the rod bearings, see how they are. So the way we're going to check them is by torquing them down to the crank. Even if it's not on the block, still the same thing. It's actually easier if you do it outside the block. So we're going to put each rod on the crank with a little piece of plastic gauge and torque them all down and see how it goes. So the connecting rod bearing cap, step 1 for b18b1 is 14. Step 2 for b18b1 is 23. 14 and 23. Can't really see the marking on there because the bearing is black, but it's perfect measurement too. And all 4 are the same. I already checked them. This box came different. Usually they come in like little bags, and telling you where the piston ring goes. For example, the one that goes all the way at the top says top, and then it says the second one says second, and then the oil rings. But this one came without the bags. So the way I'm going to check is the middle ring is thicker. So this one fits at the top, and the middle one is kind of loose. So I know that this is a top one. And the way I check the gap is I put them in there. Push it down with the piston, make sure it's flat. And then the little gap right there in the piston ring, that's where you put your feeler gauge and check to make sure that it's within spec. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my feeler gauges, and we're going to go ahead and check them again so I can show you. Put it in and push it down with the piston. Here's a feeler gauge. Barely goes in. It's 0.014. That's how I check them. I checked all of them, the top ring, the middle ring, and yeah, everything is within spec. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the piston rings on the pistons, lubricate the cylinder walls, and put the first piston in. So this is how the piston rings go. The middle ring A, that's supposed to be pointing towards this valve, and then the B, that's the top ring, towards this valve right here. We got everything cleaned up and ready for final assembly. Right now I'm going to go ahead and put the main bearings on, put some assembly lube on it, and put the crank on, and then torque it down to spec. Got the bearings on with some assembly lube. And now time for the crank. Got some brand new thrust washers, also from King Bearings. So I'm gonna go ahead and take them out the package and put them on. Little grooves right here. See, one side's flat, and then it's also standard size. The little grooves go pointing towards the crank. So on this side goes like this, pointing towards the crank, and on this side it goes like this, also pointing towards the crank. And you want to add some assembly lube on this side and just slide them in there, kind of like start from the top and then slide it in like that. Got the assembly lube in there, and time to put it in. This and slide it down just like that. Now do the one on this side. Kind of want to push the crank a little bit, and yeah, now do this side. So the same thing, you can see the assembly lube in there. Just slide it down. And there you go. Now the crank will move like side to side. After it's torqued down to spec, you want to rotate the crank and make sure everything spins freely. If you're rotating and it feels like it gets stuck or it feels hard, that means something is wrong and you have to take everything off again and recheck everything. We got the last cap all cleaned up. You just put it in. Kind of hammer it down in place. And yeah, So it starts from number 1, closer to the oil pump, and the arrow is pointing towards the oil pump. 2, oil pump. 3, to the oil pump. 4, to the oil pump. And 5, to the oil pump. And just put the bolts in, put them in by hand. And if they start to feel hard, that means there's something wrong. You have to take them out and clean the threads, or check to see what's stopping the ball from going in all the way. This one looks like it's hard, but it's not. It has assembly lube on it, so it's slipping, but it's going in all the way. There you go. Now you're ready to torque them down, and then after you torque them down, spin the crank to make sure it spins freely, and from there you're ready to move to the next step, which is the rods with pistons. You also torque them down, spin the crank, make sure everything spins freely, and then from there you start assembling everything else, like the window tray, the oil pump, oil pickup tube, rear main seal, oil pan. Turn it around and then you torque the head down. Torque specifications: main bearing cap bolts, b18b1, step 1 22, step 2 56. So the main bearings, you torque them down like this. Start at the middle, 1 2, then move over to the right, 3 4, left 5 6, right 7 8, left 9 10. Step 1 is done. As you can see, the crank spins freely by hand. So now we're going to torque it down to 56 foot-pounds, and then try to spin it again and see how it feels. Step 2 is done. Spins freely. There's assembly lube right here, so I can't grab it really good. Good. I got the crank bolt on there with the ratchet and 19mm socket. We're gonna go ahead and spin it. Spins freely. Nothing's binding up. That means everything's good. We're ready to go to the next step. And this is effortless. Look, with one finger. All right, let's go to the next step, which is the rods, pistons, and rings. So we're gonna go ahead and flip the block around and start with piston on cylinder number 1, and then go to the second one, third one, and fourth one. Torque them down to spec, and then try to spin it around again and see if anything feels like it's binding up, or anything feels that something's wrong. So let's go ahead and turn the block around and go to the next step. So right here, if you start on piston number 1, you want the crank to be all the way down so you don't scratch it. That's the lowest position, and you still, the way I do it is I put the rods in with the main caps and everything. That way it doesn't scratch, the bolts on the rods don't scratch up the crank. And then I'll spin the crank, take the main cap off, push the piston back up and put it into place, and then assemble the main cap back on and torque it down to spec. Let me go ahead and do this one, and I'll show you guys how I do it, and then I'll take care of the rest. We got the new piston rings right here, Hastings. This is the rings I use on all my motors, and they have never failed before, so this is the brand I would recommend. But I don't know if you guys have any other specific brands you guys use, but yeah, this works for me. And we have the brand new piston right here, pistons, and I showed you guys the bearings, and then I just like to check how they go in. Yep, it's not loose, that's good. Now I'm going to install the rings on the piston, and then put the first rod and piston back on the block. I got the piston rings on already, where they should be. Got the bearings in the rods, rod caps, rod bolts, piston rings. Now it's time to lube the cylinder walls and put this in there. I got the piston ring compressor tool on there. I got the piston in there. I just kind of push it down. And voila, it's in there. And the oil that I usually use is regular motor oil to lubricate the cylinder walls and the piston rings, or ATF because it's a little bit thicker. When you turn on the car for the first time, it's going to be a little bit smoky because it's going to has to burn down all that oil, but that helps a lot, so you don't scratch your cylinder walls when you're assembling the motor and when you're starting the engine for the first time and it has no oil in it. Now you turn the engine around, spin the crank this way so you can push the piston more up. And then remove the rod cap bolts or nuts. Usually I have a finger holding on this side, or one hand holding on this side, on the crank side, and one hand taking off the nut. But right now, since I'm recording, I can only use one hand. Just gotta be careful not to damage the crank. Set the nuts to the side. Remove the rod cap. Got it off. Now you turn the crank back this way. Well, before that, you push the piston down. Turn the crank this way. Pull the piston to this side, or the middle, and then pull it up. Make sure you put some assembly lube. And then just kind of pull it up, one hand on this side and one hand on this side, and slowly pull it up. Try not to hit the crank. There. Just kind of pull it up more. If not, you can rotate the crank this way. Then put the cap back on. Make sure you put assembly lube. And make sure you got that number. See how it's half on number 2 in the bottom and then the other half on the cap. Make sure you complete it. You don't want to put the cap backwards. So the connecting rod bearing cap nuts for B18B1, first step is 14. Step 2 for B18B1, 23. Now that I have it torqued down, I'm going to go ahead and spin the engine. Make sure it feels good. Spinning good. Yep. Okay. Now you can turn the block around. You can kind of check the compression. So basically you put your hand right here and then spin the crank over with the other hand, and you're gonna feel the piston pull down your hand really hard. But you have to cover like the entire hole and then spin it, and you'll feel the piston pulling you down. And that's how you know you have good compression. At the end of when you're done assembling the motor, you can also do a compression test with the compression tester, and it should tell you, I believe it should be around 184 psi of compression. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and finish all the other pistons. 2 down, 2 more to go. We got all 4 in, torqued down and ready to go. Let me go ahead and spin the engine around. Everything spins freely, and I already checked the compression on all 4, and it's good. So now we're gonna go ahead and install the oil pump. I got a brand new Honda oil pump as well to put in. Got a new rear main seal. I cleaned the rear main seal mount. I'm gonna go ahead and install the new one so I can put it on. The oil pump just chilling right here. I'm gonna put it on right now as well. The rear main seal is on. Oil pump is on. Now I have this just resting here. This is next. Now the oil pickup too with the little gasket. Just drop it in there. And then 2 nuts on this side. And 2 bolts on this side. Now the oil pan. Have the brand new oil pan gasket right here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on and then put the oil pan on. So basically the bottom end is fully assembled. We have the oil pan, rear main seal, oil pump. We already have all the internals. Right now we're gonna start by putting on the water pump, the post mount, the timing belt tensioner, and then we're gonna put the head on. After that, put the timing belt on, adjust the valve lash, put all the timing covers on, the crank pulley, and the valve cover. We got a brand new timing belt kit from Gates. Has a timing belt, tensioner, and water pump. So we're gonna go ahead and install the water pump right now. We're gonna install the rear coolant tube, and we have brand new O-rings from Honda. Next, we're gonna clean the surface so we could install the new head with brand new gasket. We got a brand new head gasket kit right here from Victor Reigns. So we're gonna go ahead and pull out the gasket real quick. Right here. Already have the dowel pins in the block. So let me go ahead and put the head gasket. Next, we're gonna go ahead and set the head on here so we could torque it down. Already have the head gasket. And yeah, let's go ahead and get the head. We got the head on there. We're about to put the bolts in and torque it down. So the torque down sequence is like this, starting from the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The head right here on the picture is a GSR head, but both of them are the sequence is the same. For the cylinder head bolts, step 1, 22 foot-pounds, and then right here b18b1, 96 and later, 63 foot-pounds. So it's 22, and then the second one 63. Now we put the crank position sensor with the sprocket, little bracket right here. Right now I'm going to put the post mount and the tensioner, and then I'm going to work my way up with the rear timing cover that goes right here, and then the cam seals with the cam caps and the cams, everything to assemble the head. And then we're going to go to the timing, and then we're going to install the front timing covers, the bottom one and the top one. So I got the old cam seals off, and I got the new ones right here. We're gonna go ahead and put them on. We got the new cam seals back on. I got the cams back on. I got the new timing belt. I got the crank pulley, so I can see the timing mark. And right now we're gonna set the timing. Then I'm gonna go ahead and remove the crank pulley again, this plastic cover, tighten the tensioner, put the crank pulley back in, turn the engine 2 or 3 times, check the timing, and then reassemble everything for the final time. Right here, the like the crank pulley, the timing cover, the upper timing cover, and everything. It's kind of hard to set the timing, but what I do is I remove the spring. I start from here, put this mark up, make sure the hole right here in the middle aligns, and then go to the second cam, make sure the hole aligns too. Make sure these 2 marks are right next to each other, and then I kind of set the crank pulley with the plastic over and make sure this bottom mark aligns. After that, I just take off the bottom, all that, the crank pulley and the plastic, and then I put this little spring back. What I do is grab a screwdriver, put it right here, pull it up, and then the spring drops into place. And then after that, I just pry up on the tensioner a little bit right here with this screwdriver, tighten the bolt, assemble everything, spin the engine like 3 times, and make sure all the marks align. And then after that, I just take off the crank pulley again, put all the bolts on the bottom cover, the top cover, and then assemble everything. Got that timing mark right here aligned. I already got all the bolts back in the lower timing cover. These 2 marks align. the 2 holes up here align. So we have the timing finished. Now we're gonna put this timing cover back on, adjust the valve lash, and finish assembling everything outside the engine. We got a brand new intake manifold gasket. We're gonna go ahead and put it on right now.
Oh my God.
Não é lógico aquilo que sinto quando eu te vi nesse dia cair. Era óbvio, olhando agora, tiveste sempre em frente de mim e até que enfim.
Let's start it for the first time. He's going to go test drive it already.